Hello and welcome back. My name is Hannah.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is the You Talkin' to Me podcast. Today we are going to be talking about 3 different short films. And just so you guys are aware, this will be our last episode of season 1. So there will be a 3-week break, and then we'll be coming back for season 2 in June.
While I will miss the podcast for 3 weeks, it is very, very much needed as I'm going to be finishing up school. Hannah's going to be going on a trip if all goes well, and we'll be visiting family and whatnot. So it's going to be a nice break, but we'll miss you all. But it'll make June, it'll make the heart grow fonder.
So I will get into the recap of the first short film we are going to be talking about. It is called Zion. Zion is about Zion, who is born without legs. He spent the beginning part of his life in many different abusive foster care houses until he got adopted by his mom when he was 16. He didn't always behave the way he knew he should, but one day he decides to start wrestling, and that helped him in all areas of his life. Zion proved to his peers, his bullies, and, most importantly, to himself, that he can do what he sets his mind to.
So this short film was only like 11 minutes long and was kind of documentary style since it was about like a real person and real people or whatever. But I'm like conflicted about my opinions on this short film, but I do want to say, like, even though I have conflicted feelings, that I did want it to be longer, and maybe if it was longer, they could have explored things more fully and maybe not have created it the way that they did, which is kind of what I have the problems with. But what were your initial thoughts, Hannah?
My initial thoughts were it was inspiring watching this person's story unfold and Zion being so confident in himself. In there, he says something along the lines of, "They tried to make me look like them, but I just want to be myself." After the coach says something about him showing up to school for the first time in prosthetic legs. And I just thought that was really inspiring. He's literally 3 feet tall. He doesn't have legs. He has to walk around on his hands. And he's just like, who cares? Like, this is me. This is my life. I'm going to do me. And I liked that, but I didn't necessarily I would agree maybe. Well, I don't know what you're going to have to say about the editing style and stuff like that. I liked the message. I don't know if I liked the way it was filmed.
Yeah, so my biggest thing is, while it was inspiring, like, did it feel like one of those like inspiration porn videos? On Facebook, there's like these 3-minute videos of like a kid with special needs who like succeeds at something, and it's like to make you feel good, but it also feels like it's exploiting the person or thing that like you're watching. That's how this felt, mainly because if it was just straight up documentary, like recording this guy's life, recording him at wrestling, recording the coaches, like straight up interviews. I thought the coaches' answers were great. I thought Zion's answers were great. And I thought the mom's answers I thought like literally all the interviews were wonderful. But it was like the middle, like B-roll or like extra videos that they had that made it just seem weird. They had a prayer in there, and I can't remember the prayer, but it was really weird. And there's like a chant at the end that like, oh, like when the whole crowd had like their standing ovation or something, they had like this weird like chant where they were like talking about Zion or chanting his name or something. I don't know. I would feel like super awkward, super embarrassed. It's like, oh, it's because I don't have legs that you're like thinking this is cool that I can do this or whatever. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, it is really cool that he can do all these things while literally only having 2 limbs to be able to use and stuff like that. But it also, yeah, it just felt a little exploitative at times, like the way that they would film some of the extra stuff to fill in the video.
Yeah, I get that for sure. And I did feel sometimes like, not necessarily that Zion didn't want to film this, but why did they choose to film this? Because his story was amazing, but why was he chosen? Were they just trying to fill a quota? Sometimes, it's in this day and age, you have to I don't know if you need to break down, I guess, if someone's doing something out of pure intentions or if they're literally just doing something because they have to meet a certain quota. So I don't know if we're looking too much into it because of that, or if this was just genuine and they really wanted to share his story. I'm very happy I learned about his story, but I do feel like sometimes the way it was being told was maybe inauthentic. I loved the interviews, though. I really did love the interview portions of it.
You could tell the coach really cares about him and stuff. Like there's this whole scene of like him being like, okay, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you have to be careful because, you know, your arms are all you got. So we want to make sure like you don't, you know, maybe break them or something during a wrestling tournament. Because, you know, that's how he walks around. It doesn't look like he uses a wheelchair very often or ever. I didn't see him in one once. He just walks around on his arms. It would be like very devastating if he, you know, injured one of his arms because you have to build up that muscle again. And, you know, it'd be very hard. You can't be in a wheelchair by yourself with one broken arm either. So I liked the care and like that scene and stuff like that.
What I was wondering was, speaking of walking around on his arms, they show a scene where he's working out, he's doing pull ups. A person who has legs, if you just do a really intense arm workout, you can walk on your legs. But if his arms are also working as his legs, how does he do a workout where he's doing so many pull-ups and then he's walking around on his arms? I feel like, how would you move? You would just be stuck there. That one blew my mind because I was like, I know after an intense arm workout, like my arms are jelly. And then if you had to literally walk around on your arms, yeah, good luck.
I'm wondering if it's similar to like an intense leg day or after you have like a terrible run that like you're just so tired, but you can still like move around on it. Like I'm sure he's just used to it since he's been doing it since he was a child. Here's an honest question. So were you like surprised when you saw him? Like a little shocked?
Yes, I think that it's natural the first time you see something that's quote unquote different, your brain just goes to a place of, oh, what is that? So it probably took me 10, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, I don't know, to be like, oh, okay, I understand what's happening now. But yes, I was like, whoa, where's his legs? What happened? Like, I wanted to know, did he get chopped in half? Was he born this way? What happened? Does he have legs that are small, hiding behind his clothes? And then my thought also went to, does he have like a lower half of his body? How does he go to the bathroom? That was where my brain went. What were you thinking?
Well, no joke, it was so funny that we found this video because I had just maybe like a week or so before we had planned like what we were watching for this podcast, seen a guy on TikTok who literally has the same disability or at least looks the same. You know, I don't know if it's the same thing, obviously. And his name is Spencer to the West. And he was like in his wheelchair and just like showing people how he gets over curbs. And I thought he was I had no idea what he was gonna do. And I thought he had legs that were full legs at that point when I had seen the video of him. Then he gets off and uses his arms and then pulls the wheelchair up and stuff like that. Now, I legit was like, my brain like couldn't process it for a hot second. And then I was like, oh, okay, okay. And I like watched more of his videos and I was like super chill about it after that. And I was like, okay, got it. And he, with the bathroom thing, actually has this funny thing that he says because a lot of people ask how he goes to the bathroom because people just assume that it ends like under his tummy or something, like that's the bottom of his body, like that's how it processes in their brain or whatever. And he always gets the question, how do you go to the bathroom? And he just goes, just like everybody else. And it's just funny the way he says it. I don't know, it's just he's a funny person. So like they do both of them, I think Zion and this Spencer to the West guy on TikTok do have like very small legs that just can't function like our legs. And so he does have a lower half of his body. Of course, I'm not going to be speaking for Zion and like knowing how he goes to the bathroom, but I'm assuming it's the same way. He just has to like pull himself up onto the toilet. I know I wasn't as shocked when I saw Zion just because I had literally just seen these TikToks not that long ago. So I was like, what are the odds, you know?
Yeah, that's funny, the timing of that. And the way you stated how their brains only process that it would end, the body would end like right under the stomach. That is exactly what my brain was processing. I was like, oh, they must just literally be chopped in half because that's just the way my brain was working. But I think that this is an example. Rachel and I are being very honest about the fact that, you know, immediately we maybe, I don't know if you would call it judgmental. We weren't trying to judge a person, but our brains were going, what the heck's happening? Because maybe immediately your brain doesn't understand something, but, you know, you look at the whole situation, you find out more things, and then you can learn and be informed instead of just judging someone for looking different than you look or acting differently than you do. I think that that's a good way where, sure, maybe immediately your brain goes to well, what's happening sort of thing, but then you take the time to learn about what your brain is sort of freaking out about.
Yeah, and I mean, we're basically wrapping up this one a little bit, but I just wanted to say a little bit at the end was that I loved the footage of the wrestling matches, and then I also liked that he didn't win at the end. That made it seem less like the inspiration porn thing that I was bringing up. I obviously wish he would have won because I know what it's like to not win. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks, especially even like training and it's like your last year or whatever. But I did think that was a surprising end to it because you're just like, of course he's gonna win and it's gonna be this huge celebration, and but like he didn't, and that was really cool. I mean, bad, but like a really cool twist. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I was upset that he didn't win, but I like that they talked about that he literally got as close to winning as he could have. It was like 6 overtimes or something. I don't remember, but it's like sudden death overtime. I don't know wrestling terminology, sorry, but he didn't win, and that was his last chance of winning. He got very, very close, but he didn't win. Also, it's just really cool to watch him wrestle because I think wrestling is very interesting. It reminds me of maybe snakes or something squirming around on the ground. Anything else on this one before we move to the next short film, Rachel?
no, that's it for Zion for me.
All right, then we will be moving into a short film called Canvas. Canvas is a short film that tells the story of a man who is an artist but has lost inspiration for creating since the death of his wife. One day, when his granddaughter is over, she goes into a room that has his old art supplies in it. She finds a painting of her deceased grandma, and her grandpa finds her doing this. At first, he seems mad. Then he seems scared to look at and touch the painting. The granddaughter helps her grandpa see how beautiful his work is and sparks the creativity inside him so he can start to create beautiful art once again. I want to know your thoughts on this one, Rachel.
All right, so this one was what, like 7 or 9 minutes long? It was very short. And so when I watched it, I did watch it once before and then I watched it again right before, like the night before we recorded this podcast. I was shocked because the whole thing is like a silent film. I mean, there's obviously sound, but there's literally no words the entire time. And as someone who writes scripts, I just like have such a hard time being able to like think of stories where there would literally be no words. And obviously, you just don't write dialogue and show it through their faces or through their actions. Like, it's very obvious. Like, duh, that's how you write it. But I was shocked the whole time. No words, not a single word was shown, and there was so much story told.
But were you ever confused? Because for me, like that's one of my points that I wrote down is no words didn't like. I didn't like that there weren't words because sometimes I was confused as to what was happening. I felt like what's being told here. Not that I think the animators did a bad job because this is an animation if I didn't state that already. I thought the animation was amazing. So good. Some especially some of the nature stuff literally looked so real that I was like, is this not real? But sometimes I truly felt like I had no clue what was happening in the story because there weren't words happening.
I am so glad you said that because I literally wrote the first time I watched this, I had no idea what was going on till the end. I was also confused. And I was like, why is he grumpy? Like, I understand his wife's dead, and like, I understand he used to paint, and obviously he must not anymore, but like, I didn't know there was a door behind that clothing rack. I was like, what is up with that? What's over there? Like, obviously there's something, but it's like, what's the big deal, bro? And then she like finds the painting, and then he was like super mad about it. And I was like, why are you so mad? Like, dude. I was like, yeah, I was kind of confused at first, and I was like, okay, let's get going because I need to know what's happening.
Well, the other thing that I didn't like, I mean, I love that at the end he's going to paint, but I hated that they didn't show what he's painting. That really made me mad. I was like, why, why?
It's not like it would have been that hard to come up with something really meaningful or good. Like it could have been his daughter and his granddaughter. You know what I mean? Like, or him with them, or whatever. Or all three, the two of them, and then his late wife. You know what I mean? Like you could make whatever you want, and it would have amped up. Like it would have been better, not better, but like amped up the old painting. You know how you don't want to like build up and hype up the moment and then you like reveal the big thing and it's not that cool. It would have been worth the hype. Finally he paints again and you can see the outlines of whatever, the family. And so yeah, I agree. It was like they just left us hanging. But also, how weird was it that his family was just like Jay chilling there watching him paint? Like, I would feel so much pressure. I'd be like, move along, please. I literally physically cannot write a sentence if someone is standing over my shoulder. I'm like, nope, I have zero idea words. No words have ever been in this brain.
I think for me, it depends on what I'm doing. If someone's watching me, for example, when I would practice acting scenes, I literally could not do that in front of someone else. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I cannot have someone be watching me. If I'm writing a blog post, for example, most of the time it's fine if someone's by me. If they came towards the back of my computer though and like were trying to look at what I was writing, I'd be like, no, no, I'm done. We can't do that. But I feel like painting is so personal. Maybe it's because they're sitting behind the canvas. So the same sort of thing with my computer. If you're on the back side of it or front side, whatever that's considered, where you can't see what's happening, it's fine. But if you're looking at what's being written or what's being painted, it's like, no, that's the personal line you can't cross. And maybe he is actually painting his daughter and granddaughter. But guess what? We don't know because they left us on a big old cliff.
Now, I agree. If someone's in the room with me while I'm writing, absolutely fine. That's how I do most of my writing is with like Jack in the room or something. But like even if he knows everything that I've written so far and knows what I'm about to write and has helped me like come to the conclusion, the second he's like looking at the screen, I'm like, I might as well have like just been born today. That's how much I know about the English language. Like it's so weird. I think it's just like an anxiety thing, but I don't know. I like couldn't do that also if teachers were like walking around the room like and we were writing something or typing something. I was like, you best not be coming up behind me, please, because you're going to be disappointed when I write 0 words when you step behind me.
I mean, maybe that just shows that what you're working on you care about because since you care about it, you don't want it to be seen before. I don't know if perfecting it's the correct terminology I want, but before you get it to a place that you really feel good with, you don't want someone to look at it. Just like if an artist is starting to draw something or paint something, you know how long it takes for it to evolve into what you want it to be. You probably don't want someone to come in and judge your work when you're an eighth of the way into it. They'll be like, wow, that's art, and people maybe don't think of words as the same sort of thing, but I think that it's just so personal and people are judging you on something that's, well, really, it's like intimate. It's the most intimate to me is like writing because it's the words inside your body. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it.
I thought in this film that the animation was really pretty. I liked how it kind of switched animation styles too, from the like looking like it was painted on a canvas to like that 3D newer age animation that like all of the Disney movies are in now, to back to the like canvasy painting and stuff. Although I will say I was not a huge fan of the like fantasy scene when he was with his wife again. I was like, it's a cute scene, but I just like, one, didn't think we needed it, and two, thought it was just a little out of place, I guess, or maybe like unrealistic or something. I'm not sure how I felt, but like I just remember not like super liking it.
Well, I was a little confused by that because It was like he took a painting from his granddaughter and was really angry, and then he gets transformed into that scene, and his eyes are closed. So I was like, for a second, I literally thought he died. And then it was like he was sleeping. I was like, what's happening? Or is he just like closing his eyes and trying not to yell at his granddaughter? And once again, I couldn't fully understand what was happening because words weren't involved. But I did really like most of the animation style, and it was tripping me out because I kept thinking this must be, I was like, oh, I'm watching this on Disney Plus, but it's on Netflix because I kept thinking it was a Disney animation by the way it was animated.
Yeah, the style was so similar and it was just really great animation. Like you could see all of the like wrinkles on his hands. I don't know, it was just really cool. Yeah, it looked so beautiful. The thing that I hated the most about this was how mad he got when she was in that room. I was like, here's the actual thing that I hated. Why was she so scared of him? She like was like visibly scared that he was like gonna do something or something to her. You know what I mean? I was like, has something happened before? Am I missing something? Because kids are not just like straight up scared of adults unless they like have a reason to be. And she obviously loves her grandpa. She draws a million pictures of them together. She's obviously like an artistic person like he is. They relate a lot on that without her even knowing really because he's never shown her his work. But she was like so scared when she like uncovered this stuff. Like, yeah, you know that you did something bad and you might be like nervous about the consequences, like, oh, I'm gonna get grounded or whatever. But she like was too scared for my liking, I think. And I know maybe it was just because there was no words and they needed to amp up some of the reactions, but it just rubbed me the wrong way.
I agree with that because it looked like she was about to get beat. That's what I saw happening. And maybe, like you said, it's because there weren't words, but that's how I was feeling. I was like, oh my God, is he going to hit her? That's not okay. Or did he hit her before? But that is kind of where my head was going too.
I wonder if that was like the main reason they did that because he had not shown really being that mean of a person. Like he was upset and like whatever without his wife, but that was it.
Well, I guess talking about things that don't have words or maybe understanding things where you can't hear, do you want to move into our next short film?
Yes, but first we should answer our final question of the season.
Ooh, let's get to it.
All right, so our final question from last week, if you remember, was from Luke. And that was, is there a movie or TV show that more people should watch or know about?
If you remember from last week, I said there are two that I would talk about. There's one that is called Lost Girl. It's a Canadian show, I think. I could be wrong about that, but it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It's about a girl named Bo, and she is, oh, what's the word? I don't remember, sorry, what she's called, but it's this sort of fantasy, actiony mashup type of show. She's they're fae, I think is what they're called. I don't know how to describe it. You know, it's one of those things where maybe you have to look it up for yourself, but I loved it so much, and maybe I would think differently now if I watched it and think the quality wasn't as good. It was created in 2010. There's 5 seasons. It is labeled as a drama, but that is a show, Lost Girl. If you can find it, I literally would highly encourage watching it. And maybe it's because for me, it seems like a lot of shows nowadays, it's like they tell one sort of main point over 10 episodes of something, but this show, it's every single episode has this big exciting thing happening, and I love that. And if I remember correctly, there's 20 plus episodes per season, and there's 5 seasons, and so that's a lot of things happening, obviously. And so it kept me engaged. And then the other show I really like a lot that I feel like people should be talking about is Everything Sucks, which is a Netflix original. They only got 1 season. They got canceled after 1 season, but I think it was so cute and I loved it so much. It's like a flashback to the 90s. That is my opinion. What about you, Rachel?
I think I also have two TV shows, which is funny. I'm not a huge movie watcher, but my favorite movies just happen, I think, usually are based off of like real life. Besides Paddington, I love the Paddington movies and would literally murder people for them. So go watch them, please. Anyway, I really liked, it's a very new show called Outer Banks, and it just came out like last year, I think, or at the beginning of quarantine or something. And it takes place right by where I live, over in like, it was filmed in like South Carolina or something, in the marshes, but the marshes look just like the ones like on my way to Jack's house. You pass over like a river or whatever, and they look exactly like that. It's so crazy. But the story is so good. It's about these like three friends who live in Outer Banks, which is like an island in North Carolina, and it takes place right after a hurricane. And all the rich people have power after it because they all have generators and stuff. But a lot of these kids are poor in this show, and so they haven't had power for like weeks, like literally, like it takes a long time. I think it takes place after like Hurricane Matthew or something, which was like huge. And the whole story is basically the main story. There's a bazillion stories within it. It's so good. Every character is fully developed and you know exactly how they're going to act and blah, blah, blah. I love it so much. Okay. But John B., which I think is a stupid name, but I guess his dad's name was also John, so whatever. But John B., which is what his friends call him. Oh, hi, John B. Like, that just sounds stupid. Whatever. Ignore it. He lives by himself right now because his dad got lost out in sea or something. Like he was looking for some big treasure that is really popular on the island that a ton of people have like tried to look for and stuff. And he got lost at sea. He's presumed dead, but John B is like, he's not dead. Like he's gonna come back, blah, blah, blah. But he lives by himself, and the social worker's like, you're gonna have to go to foster care soon. But because of like the hurricane and all of this stuff, like they haven't really been able to pick him up yet, I guess. And suddenly he finds this compass in a sunken boat, not like a ship, but like a regular boat, and it belonged to John B.'s dad. And there was like a clue in it, okay? And so it's like this huge treasure hunt where they're trying to find this gold that his father like promised he was going to find and bring back to them and become rich. It sounds so dumb, but I love it. And then my other show is a kids show. It's on Disney Channel. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus because they don't want me to be happy or something. It's called Andy Mack, and it's about an Asian American girl. It's the first Asian American family on Disney Channel that stars as the main role. And she has these two friends, Buffy and Cyrus. And it's the first Disney Channel show that has a gay main character. And it is only 3 seasons long. It was created by the same lady who created Lizzie McGuire. It's easily the best kids show I've ever watched, and just one of my favorite shows of all time. I legit would like hack into the Disney Channel website somehow and find like a provider that I didn't have or whatever, and like try and watch the episodes each week, because I started watching it when the second season ended and the third season was about to start. And so I had to like YouTube old episode clips and stuff.
It is on Disney Plus, I just looked. And I guess there's one other show that I want to mention. It is on Netflix. I don't know what year it came out. It was either 2020 or this year. And it's called Away. And it's about going to Mars. I think it's the best thing I've seen that Netflix has created, which is a bold statement here, people. But
Really?
I really think it is.
Oh my gosh, that's good. Watch Outer Banks, and I think you'll also like that a lot. But
Well,
those are
thank you, Lucas. Sorry, can't call you Luke. It's my brother. Sorry, can't do it. For that question, I think that was interesting. I hope we gave you some insight into our brains and what type of things we like to watch. On to our third and final short film of the week. The Silent Child is a short film about a young child named Libby who is deaf. Libby's family doesn't do sign language, but they expect her to read lips. One day, they have Joanne come to their house to help Libby. She teaches Libby sign language, and Libby really starts to open up as a person and learns that life can be fun when she can understand what someone is saying. Sue, Libby's mom, doesn't like the idea of Libby signing or having Joanne go to school with Libby to help her learn. Libby's parents send her to school in an environment where she can't hear and doesn't know what is going on.
I loved this short film. It's Academy Award winner for Best Live Short Film.
I didn't see that until after I watched it, but once I got through watching it, I was like, holy crap, that is the best short film. Like, this, why isn't this talked about? And then I saw his Oscar winner and I was like, okay, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I don't know. I just like have like this special place in my heart for like learning sign language and wanting to like be able to make sure like the deaf community doesn't feel like, I don't know, like they have to change how they are to like fit in the world. So like when I worked at a hotel in Grand Forks in North Dakota, I knew some sign language. I had taken like a class. I'm not even anywhere near fluent. I can finger spell very well and I know some words, but I learned like all the words that you would need for like how to tell someone to get to their room and like when breakfast is ready and stuff like that, so that if like a deaf person came in, I would like be able to help them and wouldn't have to make them like write out everything, because that's so annoying. They have to be fluent in at least two languages, you know, American Sign Language and probably English, and like I just have to expect them to like be able to write so that I know what's going on, you know? It's just, I think it would make them feel like a burden. And so I love sign language. I try to learn it as much as I can. I am obviously doing a terrible job, but for sure, if I had a child or a family member who was deaf, I would learn it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that that's really important. I actually had a friend growing up who was predicted to be deaf when she's older, or really terrible hearing when she's older. And so I did sign language classes with her. I don't know how many years we did this, and I can't say I ever became advanced at signing, but I tried. And I remember when we were trying to watch two people communicate through sign, if we could pick up on what they were saying, and just how confusing it kind of was for me. But I think I can still do most of the alphabet. I know I can for sure spell my name in sign language, but I think that it's something that's important. And if you think about babies too, if you teach a kid sign, they usually can learn to sign at a much younger age than speaking.
It's crazy like how the mind works, and like learning languages when you're young is supposedly also easier than learning like as an adult as well. I wanted to know in this film like how long of a period had gone by from when Joanne got there to when like the end of the film, because she learned a lot of signing. You know what I mean? Like she was very fluent. And I know like I just said kids can pick up on it a lot easier, but I was like it's had to have been months. Like it had to have been.
I was thinking as months, plus, let's just say Joanne's there all day long, even if it's only 8 hours a day. If you're being taught for 8 hours a day the same exact things over and over, like you're going to pick up more quickly and you will learn the actions for the things you want more quickly. Especially, I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but if you can't hear, so you don't have a language inside your head already, would it be easier to just consume the fact that these actions with your hands are these objects or doing this or saying this versus if you already have a spoken language in your mind? I don't know.
No, for sure, because I really don't think she knew English at all. The mom kept being like, she knows, she follows what we're saying very well. And then we had that scene from Libby's perspective of her just like sitting there, just like not really engaging in anything, just watching as her family's talking to each other. And she's like profoundly deaf, I think is how they described it on some of the websites about the show, which means I don't think she can hear like literally anything, not even like a tiny bit, you know? And so it was just very interesting to see what life would be like literally with no sound.
Yeah, because they switched to that scene, like you said, where she's just looking around and all audio's cut out. You literally hear nothing. And then I was trying to pick up on what the parents were saying to each other. I couldn't read the lips, especially because it's coming from a side angle or like their profile point of view. I'm like, seriously, how would you expect her to understand anything at all? I just can't imagine that. And I also can't imagine being a parent and not wanting to learn sign language. And the mom made it a point that it's like, oh, well, the son is doing this and the daughter is doing this. So we're just busy. Like, we don't have time to learn how to do sign language. But I think that it's Are we gonna be big tea spillers here and spoil the whole plot?
We've got to.
Okay,
We've
so
got to spill the tea.
it turns out Libby's from an affair. So her actual grandfather, or I don't know if that's the correct word, her biological grandfather is deaf. And so I think the reason why the mom is so resentful over learning sign language or like opposed to it is because this child is a what's that word that's like when you're out of wedlock? I mean, a bastard child, but I feel like there's a different
I think it's just
word here.
child out of wedlock. I'm not sure.
Child out of wedlock, yeah. And a love child, that's it. A love child because it's like from an affair. And so maybe she actually doesn't really like Libby because she knows that it was from a mistake.
That is a good point. I didn't even think of that. Like, oh crap. Also, the mom says, yeah, we don't have time to, learn sign language and stuff. And then literally in one of the next scenes, Libby's signing for orange juice. And the dad's like, oh, she's probably hungry, whatever. And the brother's like, no, I think that means she wants orange juice. And it's like, yes, like he was learning it. I mean, it's because he has a crush on Joanne. But regardless, like he had time to learn a couple signs after the mom literally was like, sorry, we don't have any time for that. So sorry.
Can we also talk about when the dad was like, oh, she's probably hungry. Can you pass the butter? I was like, the hell?
I think it was like for him, but also like if
Oh,
she's hungry, why are you focused about your food, bro?
yeah, I was just confused by that. But
Fun fact, they used British Sign Language in this film, which is different than American Sign Language, different than Mexican Sign Language. Like every country, or in some cases it's a region, has their own version of sign language just based on, the words they use, the grammar that country is more comfortable with or whatever. Like, I mean, American Sign Language doesn't use the same grammar structure as English, but it makes more sense for our language and how it works on why it's different. Same with British Sign Language, things like that. So I thought that was a cool little fact about the movie.
to be honest, didn't even know that there's different forms of sign language. I mean, I should have known that because I'm used to hearing American Sign Language. You would assume that there would be other types of sign language too. That's really ignorant of me to have believed that there would only be one form of sign language if there's so many languages that are spoken. But that's cool to know. And I did like how there were subtitles, and right away they make you know or make it known to put on your subtitles. They say, make sure it's put on in your language so that you know what's happening, because sometimes, unless you know the sign language that is being used, you would not have a single clue what was being said.
I know a lot of people who don't like watching movies with subtitles, but like, one, I need it sometimes. Like when I watched Outer Banks, I legit needed subtitles just because I don't know if they were just mumbly or the audio was a little weird or something. I could not understand what they were saying half the time. And I just like, I don't understand like why it's a huge problem, but some people just like hate having them on. And I thought this was nice that they had it also just like throughout the whole film, not just for the sign language sections of it, which is great because if someone who is deaf is watching this, they know what everyone is saying. They don't have to just pick up on it as little as they can, because sometimes their lips are not in the screen when they're talking. So you need to know what the heck they're saying.
I appreciated it too because for us, they have an accent. They're British. Some of them had a pretty strong British accent, and if they were talking quickly, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you just said. But then I could read it, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. I think it was the mom who is her accent for some reason when she was talking. I was like, no idea what you just said, but okay.
So another fun fact about this film is that the main character, Joanne, Rachel Shenton, she was in another show that I watched. I was like, why do I know her? She was in the show Switched at Birth, which is another show that has deaf characters and sign language. And I was like, she must know sign language then. Like, she just must know it, because there's no coincidence. One, like, sorry, Hannah, if this spoils your fun fact, she wrote this, like, screenplay. Sorry. She wrote this screenplay. And so it can't be a coincidence that she is one of the characters in Switched at Birth is the main character, besides like Libby, obviously, and the writer of this short film about sign language and deaf people and stuff like that, that I was like, she must know it. And so I looked into her, and this short film is not really based on her or anything, but loosely based on her family, where it's kind of the opposite, where she was the child of a parent that went deaf. And so she had to learn sign language and whatnot. And she played like an administrator at the school, the college in Switched at Birth.
That is a fun fact, and you would be correct that you ruined my fun fact because mine was that Rachel Shenton, wrote the screenplay and she also plays Joanne. So now I guess you have heard that twice. I don't think I have any other fun facts about that. I don't. But it did encourage me to want to learn sign language. Somewhere in my house, I know that I have a sign language book. I think it's designed for children to learn the alphabet, but even if I learned the alphabet again, for sure, like fully learned it, I think that'd be fun. And I could also teach the kiddo that I nanny the alphabet and sign language. I feel like that'd be cool.
I always think it's great to learn new things, learn new languages, and this movie definitely like made me want to.
Yeah, I think that anytime you can learn something to help others, you can't just be thinking about yourself. Just like I want to learn Spanish because I feel like there's a lot of Spanish speaking people in the world. And I'm not saying that's the only other language that there is, but I feel like there's a lot of people who speak Spanish. And like I've said on a previous podcast, I worked for a family that spoke Spanish, and I mean, not only Spanish, they were bilingual. Well, the dad actually spoke 14 languages, but when they would speak Spanish, I would feel guilty because I was like, I literally have no clue what you're saying, and I should know what you're saying right now. So I just think it's cool to be more informed about different ways to communicate.
No, I agree. I think that's awesome. And I think that, I don't know, I was like heartbroken at the end of this movie. I felt so many feelings the whole time. Like, you just feel like the ups and downs of like excited that she's learning and picking up on things, and then upset that her mom is being a little hoe bag about it. And then like being, excited again. And you just like, I could feel the strain of Joanne being like, no, but she really should learn it. It's better if she knows both, and like all this stuff. And I think you were right, honestly. I think it's because of the whole love child situation. I was like, why doesn't she want to learn sign language? Why doesn't she want to be able to communicate with her freaking kid? You know what I mean? And I think you are right about that.
Yeah, she's resentful to Libby for being who she is because of her own mistake, which I think is gross, but it's also a story that is told through lots of families. There are families who the parents just don't like the kids because it's either from a cheating experience or they just didn't want a kid and they resent the kid for being born because they quote unquote ruined their life. It's sad, but it's a reality that's not uncommon in the world, and I don't like that reality, but it's true. I also thought the ending of this was so sad. So Libby is at school and she's at recess, and Joanne had been on the way to school or to their house or something, and Sue calls and says, we just don't want you working with Libby anymore. She's fine. She'll be fine at school. And so Joanne goes to the school and sees Libby outside, just not having a fun time at recess. And Libby signs to Joanne, I love you. And Joanne signs back, I love you. And then she just leaves. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I wanted her to break in there and just be like, this kid needs to learn sign language. Oh man, it was so rough.
Well, I feel like that is all that I have to say on these three short films. I think that we chose a good variety of short films. They were all pretty different in the nature of what they were, the way they were shot, the quality of them, I would say. You have any other final thoughts to wrap up the three different short films?
I thought it was actually very coincidental and funny that they all featured disabled people in them, because we had Zion, the grandpa in Canvas was in a wheelchair, and then we had Libby, who was deaf. So I thought that was very coincidental and a good theme for our shorts.
Yeah, we didn't even try to do that. We just chose shorts that looked interesting. And by we, I had Rachel pick the shorts because I don't know what it was when I was trying to find shorts somewhere. I literally couldn't find any. I like even not Googled, I searched on Netflix for short films and that didn't work for me. It brought me to regular length movies and I was like, I don't know what I did wrong, but Rachel can find the short films for us.
Oh, and real quick, The Silent Child is on YouTube if you want to find it. I know we definitely did not say that, but the first two are on Netflix. This one was on YouTube. So, all right, so I will quickly run through all of our social medias and what's nots that we try to remember at the end of every podcast. So, if you want to email us absolutely anything, especially like ideas for next season's podcast.
Maybe not absolutely anything. There
Yeah,
are
maybe not
limitations
absolutely
for
anything.
what you should email us.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, take Hannah's advice and like use your brain and think about what would be appropriate to email us. Anyway, do that at youtalkintomepodcast@gmail.com. Our Instagram is at youtalkintome.podcast. Follow us on Twitter at youtalkintome11 because we're both number one. Follow us on the YouTubes, subscribe, hit the notification bell, like our videos, comment on them, things you liked, things you disliked, suggestions, whatever you feel, just interact with us, like be part of our lives here. We love hearing from y'all. So please make sure to do that.
Yeah, do that. And also, if you leave a review on streaming services, that helps out our podcast a lot. And as a reminder, once again, this is our last episode of season 1. There will be a 3-week break, and we will be back for season 2 starting June 7th, Monday, June 7th. And we have a fun theme for June, at least in my opinion.
Do we want to reveal it or do we want to save it for the Instagram followers?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe that'll give you some incentive to follow our Instagram. So we will reveal early what our theme is for June over on Instagram. But I believe that that is all that we have for this episode and I guess this season. So thank you for listening. We look forward to talking to you again in season 2. And with that, my name is Hannah.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is the You Talking to Me podcast. Bye.
Bye.